So if you were not in class when we went over this, or if it just wasn't clear, I wanted to give a quick screencast to help you try to understand what this project is for period 6. We're going to be doing an in-class fishbowl discussion of this ultimate question: are we living in another Gilded Age? And that's going to be done through a fishbowl deliberation. This isn't a debate. There aren't going to be winners of this. I know that might disappoint some of you, but we're going to deliberate, which means you're going to use evidence to argue your perspective, but also to try to understand other people's perspective. We're all going to bring in our evidence in backing up whether or not we think we're living in another Gilded Age. And then we're going to discuss as a group all of this evidence together and have you all try to understand whether or not we're living in another Gilded Age. Because ultimately, when we're studying history, if we don't apply it to today, and if we don't apply today to what used to be, then at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot of value to history. So that's where that synthesis point comes in. And so this is a great exercise in comparing period 6 to what's happening in your own life right now. And so you will get your points for this assignment. You will be judged on 2 different objectives. One, on your ability to put together an LEQ outline, and the second, it will be the actual in-class fishbowl discussion. As one of my practices is that anytime that everything we do is correctable, which means if you are not able to earn your points through the fishbowl discussion, you will have other routes and other kind of ancillary assignments that you can do to make up those points. Alright, so here's what the actual document looks like. So you can find this on Rockspace, and the basic overview is it comes down to this question: are we living in another Gilded Age? And everything that we do in period 6, hopefully you should be thinking about this question, whether that be any of these topics that we have down here: wealth disparity, treatment of immigrants, populist movements. So keep in mind 2016 politics while we're looking at period 6. So the document looks something like this. We've got some images at the top to just give you some ideas of what it looks like, or of what the different topics might be that could mean we're living in another Gilded Age, and that draws similarities to this time period. So ultimately, as I said, what you're going to be doing is putting together an organization of a long essay question, which means you're going to be making a claim, putting together a thesis, and you're also going to be preparing for a fishbowl discussion about these topics. I've put together 5 different ideas that I have for you about how they might be similar, and I want you can take a claim on whether or not we have drastically improved these things and therefore we're not in another Gilded Age, or whether we still struggle with those mightily in a way that we didn't 30, 40, or 50 years ago, or maybe we never fixed those issues. So you can take a stance on all of these, on some of these. These are the 5 topics right here that we will be discussing in our fishbowl discussion. So be prepared as you can for this type of discussion for these topics. So what I would recommend is maybe pick 2 or 3 of those that you're really interested in, and use those to make your argument, to put together your long essay question, or put together your long essay organization. So maybe you say, maybe you pick political scandals, the populist movement of that time, as well as, let me see, deregulation of business. How about deregulation of business? You pick these 3 topics and you say, all right, well, we're doing one of those really well, but the other 2 not. And so then you could write a really good X, Y, ABC thesis. So how do you get your points? I know that's the question most of you usually worry about. So if you scroll on down to page 2, you will see that your grade is a mix of 2 different things. It's 1, a long essay question outline that you're going to put together, answering that question: are we living in another Gilded Age? You're going to put it together in an LEQ format. I have an example of that down here at the bottom. You can actually see that category 1, category 2, category 3, and it continues on. And what you'll do there is give a short summary of that category and use some evidence, right? SFI, clear evidence to back you up from period 6. And flip side of that, you also have to provide some evidence from the 21st century to say this is how period 6 and where we currently are in 2017 are either similar or are different. That also means you need to have a thesis. Okay, so I would put together a optional or kind of a guide thesis for you. So my XYABC thesis would be, though American government properly regulates and treats the environment today, that would be one category, right? Treating of the environment, that's how we're not living in the Gilded Age. My other category is, we have entered another Gilded Age due to increasing disparity of wealth and increasingly corrupt politicians dominating our government. Right, gives you a chance. You can talk about people on both sides of the aisle. Disparity of wealth is as high as it's been in a long time in America. But I'll say that America seems to be doing better treating the environment than it did in the late 1800s. So this is kind of what a good thesis would look like, and then you would use this organization format down at the bottom of the page to really sum that up. The second thing you're going to have to do is defend that thesis, defend that argument in a fishbowl discussion. We are going to go through these topics, each one of these, whichever ones that you're prepared to discuss in. That'll be when you jump in and enter the conversation. Okay, you'll have a chance to jump in and out of the conversation to earn your points, and you'll use the argument that you put together in your LEQ outline to defend your thesis in a class deliberation or discussion. Okay, so you'll gain points by discussing in class. I usually give an option, as with all things, to correct. So if you do not participate at all, you will have a chance to correct that, or if you participate poorly or aren't able to earn your points by participation, you can have a correction. But it is typically much easier to speak 4 or 5 times in class than it is to put together a full long essay on this or whatever the makeup assignment will be. So if you have any questions, contact me, let me know, email me. Hopefully this makes sense. Like I said, this document can be found on Rockspace, and I hope that makes sense to you guys. So the question on your all's minds, when is this due? This will be the last day of our unit before our test. It'll serve as a great review for us to remember all kinds of content, and that will be on February 14th if you're on White Day, and February 15th if you are a Green Day student. You need to be fully prepared by that day. If you are not, you will be doing the backup assignment, which I can assure you it will be easier and swifter for you to participate in the discussion, and is a great opportunity for you to practice some of that like civil engagement discussion. All right, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. I really look forward to this assignment every year, and I hope that you can start to draw comparisons and maybe get more active in your own kind of political sphere to understand how history does impact and kind of repeats itself in some ways. Much love, fam.